Well, if I Jolly, first of all, absolute pleasure to be speaking in front of so many people that about 3 years ago when I came out of university, I actually look up to. So, absolute pleasure to be here. But what we'll be talking about today is how to grow revenue from your existing customers and also net new customers as well. But before I get into it, I'll give a quick intro. So my name's Paddy. As you can probably tell here, it's the most LinkedIn photo we've all ever seen. But my company is PM Digital, and we help Shopify brands primarily with CRO, trying to extract essentially as much revenue as you can out of your customers, net new, existing, whatever it is. But I think CRO is a bit of a buzzword at the minute, and sure, everyone's kind of been hearing it, but it's actually been about for quite some time. And we actually kind of just look at it as a way of split testing across your entire funnel. So not just looking at the existing website, but also landing pages, and there has to be a lot of congruency from creative to checkout, essentially. Now, as well, let me make one apology. Hopefully, you can all understand my accent, because I am from Ireland. And second apology is we speak 100 miles per hour. So if I am too quick, tell me to slow down, all right? Now, what I hope everyone takes away today is, as I mentioned, how to stay from your customers, not literally, but how you can actually extract more information from them. And I think that is so important, because you are trying to sell and buy and order these people at the ad level, and you're not asking the current people within your ecosystem questions. It just doesn't make sense when you think of it logically. We're going to go through the metrics that actually matter, and hint that is not conversion rate. So if anyone is sitting here asking their agency about their conversion rate in the Shopify dashboard, it doesn't actually matter that much to an extent. Then what we call the profit optimization playbook. So we don't really call it CRO, because conversion rate isn't up the end goal for everything, and conversion rate doesn't necessarily give you the answers that you need. Because we work with brands, and I'm not even making this up, 10% conversion rate, and they weren't that profitable. So it kind of just tells its own story. But we're also going to touch here on customer-led research, which will essentially give you the copywriting you need across your entire funnel. So if does anyone run landing pages here for their brands? I know quite a few people, I can see their faces. We're going to talk a bit about landing pages, but it's not even just landing pages, it's on-site. So brands come to us and they're like, oh, this is what people like about our product, or this is what people buy it for. And the question I just ask them straight away is, where does it say now on your site? That they don't have on their website. So sometimes it's as simple as that. And then last thing is post-click. So as we know, CPMs are through your roof. Even your cost per acquisition is probably continuously increasing. And the big thing at the minute is creative. Everyone's talking about creative, but what happens after the creative? So where do they go? So that's what we're going to talk about it. So I'm going to give away a lot of free CRO tools. You can scan this now, because I'll not be stopping every 2 minutes. This will take you to what we have as a newsletter, and I will bombard you with emails after this, by the way, so care at it. But after this talk, we will send over kind of survey templates. So a big thing I'm going to be speaking on is asking your customer surveys. So surveys on site, surveys post-purchase to existing customer lists, and then even people you haven't bought. You have them in your email list and you don't ask them questions. So that's going to be what they need over. Review binging. So everyone sitting here with reviews for their brand, and you're not sitting through them for keywords, anything like that. And then a white paper. So it's going to be kind of our whole profit optimization playbook, what we set to you, which is kind of just all the information we have per part of your funnel. So product page, front page, collection pages, and just everything that we see that's working right at it. So people are probably sitting here who haven't heard of CRO, or maybe you have. And this is kind of what we think about it. And no, it is not button colors. So if you're testing button colors, as everyone knows, it is a complete waste of time. And it's not really the things you should be focusing on. It might be relevant when you're absolutely huge and you have no ideas, but nobody's probably at that stage. And yes, it is more about analyzing and experimenting based off your existing customer base. So testing for profit and not conversion rate, because we've had tests where the conversion rate increases, but if your profit isn't increased by your average order value, then it's not really a winner, is it? You've got to kind of take the whole holistic approach. And that's a word you'll hear me say a few times today, holistic. And then why CRO, as I mentioned, post-click has never been more important. CPMs are rising, and paid media cannot save a leaky funnel. So if anyone's smashing tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands on creative ads, and they haven't touched landing pages, they haven't touched on-site experience to match customer language, to match USPs and benefits and outcomes, then what are you doing? You're wasting money. Now, we asked all brands the same question, and it's kind of what I said at the start. You're trying to acquire a customer, and it is the exact same type of customer that's already purchasing from you, and you're not asking them questions. So think about that logically. You're not asking the current people that's already bought from you questions. But what you should be doing is asking them questions and feeding that information back into your funnel, feeding it into your landing pages, on-site experience, as I mentioned. Now, I'm going to go through a couple of case studies we have, and they all have one thing in common, okay? So, clothing brand, 2 million in estimated annual revenue from increases from split tests, on-site testing. And that's one thing about clothing, by the way. Clothing is very much on on-site testing. So, landing pages are very tricky for clothing. Doesn't necessarily move the needle entirely. I would focus primarily on, if we're looking at it, size guides, sizing in general, what your copy actually says, your net creative. So there's a lot of things that we look at, and we call them kind of like principles within our program. And when it comes to clothing, if you have the best website in the world, it looks amazing, like it just screams, this is absolutely stunning, and you're not, and they get to this page and they can't decide on their size, or they can't decide, am I a medium, am I a small? Doesn't matter how nice the website looks, they're not going to purchase. They're going to have those concerns and those doubts in their head. So make sure you test them, and make sure you test what they have actually clicked. Okay, so I'm going to go through that in a second. And then we have like hair loss, skincare, these types of brands. We've got at least 15% plus increase in revenue per visitor, which is the metric everyone should be tracking here when it comes to split testing. And they're a bit different. Clothing's a bit different to skincare, hair loss, because I mean, it's kind of simple. Not everyone takes hair loss supplements, and if they do, they're probably coming on here with the same issues as the other people. So back to my point again, have you found out what that reason is, and do you put that back into the funnel? And then a different type of brand, something that's more electronics, maybe a device, maybe something like that. The main thing is that all of these people have one thing in common, and it's we listen to their customer. But the question is, why didn't they before? And it's quite simple. Most brand research genuinely sucks. Like, it's so bad. And CRO 101 is research matters, because that's what it all stems from. CRO is not just split testing. You are trying to really, really understand your customer. And that's the difference between brands that scale and brands that don't, is they move their customer inside out and they can read data. Okay? Now, the second point here is kind of key. If I showed every single person in this room a Shopify analytics dashboard, they'd all read it completely different. Someone would say, oh, your AOV is too low because of this or because of that. Whereas when we ask customers feedback, you're literally asking a question and you're getting an answer. And I don't think we can kind of all take different approaches from what they've just told us. So you've got to try and extract that. And the last point is multiple sources. So on-site experience, you're going to get different answers into what they're thinking at that time. Post-purchase surveys, you're going to get kind of their mindset after why they purchase, what made them purchase, did anything nearly stop them from purchasing. And then we got when they got the product. About 2-3 months in, we actually set up like a automatic survey every 90 to 100 days to send to existing customers. And it's essentially to get like product experience. So how have you found the product? Is there anything you could improve? All of these different types of things. And those questions that I'm talking about, we will give away in the wee scan at the end. And the last thing is build the funnel for you or for them, not for you, and focus on what they see. So when I get calls and I'm speaking to brands, I always ask them, so have you understood customer, all these different things? They're like, oh yeah, our CDO wanted to do this. Or like our head of marketing thought this would work. but that's their opinion. That's not based off any experience, anything that they know. And it's always the case of this. They always want to have the last say. But your customers should be deciding what you test. Your customers should be deciding what you change, not your CEO, because they'll have a vision for the company and they'll know the marketing message, but it's not the be all and end all. And focus on what they see. So talking like heat maps, scroll maps, those different types of things. And how do we do it? So this is what I'm going to go through now. Has anyone seen this? Quite a famous guy around here, I'm sure. But no, in all seriousness, that is part of the research phase that you should be doing. You do need to pick up the phone and start down on your customers tickets. I actually know a founder who has pretty big, doing about 100 million a year, and he has a WhatsApp group that was like top 100 customers, and he sends them questions, sends them everything, and they will give you like, you could try them out with few products. You can ask them really good questions. Now, they might message you directly. That's the only problem, but that's one thing you could do. But this is everything. This is literally what we sell our product optimization model over. And as I said, analysis, research is everything. So quantitative and qualitative analysis is kind of everything. Okay, now that's two spelling mistakes of just of it. So someone's getting fired tomorrow. But quantitative analysis. So if we're looking through analytics and data, you've kind of got to just try and sit through. Yes, the dashboard, as I said, is important. We do have to look through that. But then we've got the market research. So what are your competitors doing? And you don't want to copy them, but everything will give you trends around here. And the reason for so much analysis and research is because it has to be realistic. As I said, can't go with the CEO's own opinion, but we can listen to it. And you've got to get all the data into one kind of sphere, and that's what gives you the aviation. Okay, so then we have feed maps and scroll maps. So literally I would probably say top 3 ways in which you can get test ideas, because where are they scrolling to, which I will go over in a second, and what are they clicking? Okay, so how far do they even get down your page? Then we have quantitative analysis. So website reviews. If you are not taking your website reviews and your like actual like on-site reviews, ad comments, these different types of things, and you're not collecting them all to understand your customer, then you're honestly just burning money. And there's so much opportunity for every single brand already sitting in their database. So this is what I mean by asking your customers questions. They'll leave you reviews. They'll fill in surveys. They will show you by what's the best performing ads, what angle is winning at the ad level. Then you've got all the content and messaging, like your UGC, what do all your scripts say? Now, what we do is we correlate all of that, and that gives us our aviation. So, again, all CRO is ideas on how you can try extract more revenue from your customer, and then you prioritize it. So we do like a prioritization grading, and it'll essentially go from how hard is it to build. So if it's, again, you can't do full site redesigns every week. Some brands probably do expect that from agencies sometimes, but you can't do that every week. So if it's mainly copyrighted tests, they're really quick, they're really easy, and they have such a high impact. Okay, so you should probably prioritize that first. And then it kind of comes in the most important part. We copyright it, we design it, we develop it, and then how we work from that. So that's kind of the key thing here. CRO is never ending. So you test something, you should be extracting the learnings and then retesting it again. So, for example, maybe it didn't work. Even if it didn't work, you should be testing it again and actually learning from it. So you never really lose in a way. You kind of lose some money. That's all everything. And then this is kind of the most important part. So 6-way customer improvement system. Sounds kind of fancy. That's what we call it internally, just kind of for ease. But this is where the truth is. And I can't emphasize that enough, that you could just do this and you'll have tests all year round. You don't have to look at any data and you could have tests. So I classify it as data and kind of like customer information. So as I said, reviews, post for just surveys, support tickets. So our role as CRO isn't just testing. CRO is a massive bunch of things. Kind of just understand your brand, understand your customers, but trying to reduce customer support tickets, the CRO. So we work with a closer brands. I don't think they're here, but Kamal works with them as well. And one thing we worked with, or we done for them, was size guides. So clothing has such a high return rate. I think at the time the brands maybe doing 20-25% return rate, something they had a real problem at the time. And we implemented a dynamic size guide. So something like, I can't even remember the name, but we implement that, and we seen like a 30% increase in revenue per visitor, higher conversion rate, higher AOV, and then customer support tickets start to drop. So it kind of comes into the play of, think about your brand logically, think about the decision they have to make on your site, and where can you test to kind of implement that. And if we're focusing on all of that, this is where you can't use it. And this is the problem the brands don't do. The product page above the fold. Okay, so everyone knows what the above the fold is, the first row. What does it say? If you actually just if you ever unloaded their website now, if you didn't know anything about the brand, could you understand what the product done? And that's kind of how we look at it. So we do a thing internally where if you load the website, even if it's the home page with a product page, within 3 seconds, could you tell me what you sell, why I should buy it for you and not a competitor? And if you can't answer them things, then how are your customers going to answer? Because I'll show some stats here near the end, but on average, there's a 25% scroll rate on your website on average. That's what we say at the minute. We have brands that are 40%, but 25% on average. So think about that. How long is your website? How long is your homepage, your product page? 25%. It's the top above the fold. So if you're worrying about the footer, I mean, we have brands that actually ask us to test the footer and stuff like that. That's not where you start. It does not matter to an extent of how important the above the fold is, okay? Drop the things under the call to action. So these are kind of like some things I just thought of when I was like, these matter so much. Drop downs under the call to action. So as I said, 25% scroll rate. What are they clicking? They're going to click the drop downs just under the call to action. So what could you think of? Well, if they're clicking FAQs, which are at the bottom of the page, how can we not bring up the most important one or two and maybe answer the question at the top? That way, you know your customers are actually looking for the answer. So give it to them. It's quite simple. And make sure you test it, by the way. Cart copy messages. So like influencing their decision. So it's like, a skincare. It's like, oh, your skin's going to be shining in like 7 days or something like that. Let's just say, maybe not 7, but that's what you're going to do. Cart. Landing page hooks, ad congruency. So if anyone's running ads, you could literally go home tomorrow and grab your top performing angle and just create a landing page for it. And as soon as they click off the ad, the top hero section could be the angle reinforced, and the whole page is talking about that. And you obviously want the offer or whatever else in there. Then we have navigation. So another stat I will show soon is the navigation and how much it's clicked. Literally, if anyone whips up a heat map right now on their site, it's one of the most clicked elements of your site, and people reject it. But that's where you can implement the reasons people shop. So like, if it's weight loss, you want to say like, here's the weight loss supplements, or here's the hair loss supplements, these types of things, and then headlines in your sections. Okay, let's do that. What do we like for time? I'll do that. Where is it? Oh, good. Okay. So this is kind of then, what are you trying to extract from your customer research? So these are all the emotions. I mean, there's so many more here, but these are just a couple that we threw up. So what's their motivation? What is their fears? What is their outcomes that they want from your product? Again, clothing, I always kind of separate into the two things. That you kind of like apparel, clothing, anything you could wear, versus consumables, skincare, all of these things. But clothing, you can do some of this, but realistically, their outcome is probably to have a feeling and not really like a change in physical sort of appearance. So hair loss, you're obviously looking to grow your hair back. Clothing, you kind of want to feel just like sharper, you want to feel better with yourself, these types of things. So it's important to try and understand the mindset and the psychology behind this, because at the end of the day, this is the reason that the test either works or it doesn't. Not any fancy analytic. This is the reason. Did you tap into a psychological trigger for your customer? And then at the end here, add the landing page to PV to checkout. even if that's not your funnel, congruency of message will be the complete difference here. And that is going to be the difference between, as I said, brands that scale, brands that don't. Now, what I'm going to go over now is kind of like, how do you do that? So how do you actually extract that information? And then how do you write the copy in the customer's exact tone of voice? So someone should be whipping up from an ad, a landing page, a product page, and thinking, oh yeah, that's actually me. I do suffer from that, or I do need to actually fix these types of things. And you want to feed that in, okay? So this is kind of like CRO 101 as well, which I like to kind of focus on. You want to feed reviews, surveys, customer support tickets, grab literally all of that information I spoke about, and you want to fire it into what we have internally as an LLM, but you can use ChatGPT for this, or Claude, whatever you want. And you want to make sure you feed it every single piece of information you can. What that will give you is then all the elements that I spoke about, and write it for them, not you. Now, the GPT prompt I will give at the end, but we have a prompt that we use. You could kind of take a photo of this if you want, and then what you can actually do on your phone is you can hold the photo in, and it'll extract the copy, and then you could paste it in the GPT. But this is kind of what we do that. So we grab all that information, surveys, and then the 4-question way surveys. So that's what I said about on-site surveys. Doesn't work for everyone, to be fair. So you can ask it and you could try that out. Don't leave on-site surveys on forever, because they are a bit of a restriction. Because if you have an email pop-up, you have a cookies pop-up, and then you hit them in this pop-up, and then you have about 5 other pop-ups. We all know that that's not really going to work. So only test this for a certain amount of time. Extract information from your customer on-site. Post-purchase survey, then that's what you want to do. And then, as I said, the has 90 to 100-day purchasers, and then also people who haven't bought in your survey. That's okay. So I just want to move that again so everyone can take that in. So you've information from every single person you could think of on every single part of the journey that they're on. And then you want to take everything else. So product reviews, testimonials, winning ads, and then go to the ad comments. Okay, so this is a really hidden thing. I know some people know about this, but go to your ad comments and see what they're always asking. So like, if you've Karen, 60 years old, and she's asking you some sort of grounded question, it could actually have a bit of relevance. But you want to grab all of that, you want to feed that in, and then you want to get GPT to extract things like this. Most used words, okay? Most used phrases. Them two alone will give you the copy that you, as I say, your existing customer is already using to describe the experience of the product, and then feed that back in, okay? Then we have Reddit, so like subreddits, go into like the discussion groups, kind of see what they're talking about with this. Then we have competitors, of course, but what the whole point of this is to get a customer's true language. So speak in their language, speak to their emotional pain points, the frictions, everything that they have, and you'd be very surprised what this pulls. It's actually a bit crazy. And also, the thing I like about AI, which I'm sure some people will talk about today, but AI, it's your non-emotional breakdown of things, because you can't sway your opinion on it. So you're not going to sit and say, I don't agree with that, I don't agree with this, but this is giving you the literal facts from your customer's information, okay? So make sure you do that. Now, you might need to play around with that, but everyone got that? Okay, yeah. Sure. So, everything that I talked about today, I'm going to show a couple of examples, all right? So on the left, who would be able to tell what that is? Honestly, I have no idea what they were trying to tell. I remember when I spoke to the brand, they were just kind of like, they told me, again, the CEO was the person I spoke to. I think it was the CEO, but he was saying, oh yeah, this is why people buy it, and this is what they see, and this is what they say about it. I was like, okay, so if I load this hero section right here, are you selling a net? Like, what are you actually selling there? And he was like, oh yeah, so the product is supposed to be on my wrist, and someone in another country can press a button, and it pings my wrist with their heartbeat. So I was like, right, where does this say it? Point proven, okay, so this kind of ridiculous, and he was being serious. He thought the site was good. So this is kind of like a split test that actually won. So fake closer no matter the distance. It's quite simple. And then still pushing the offer But then going into like showing the fact that there's 2 different colors, okay, it goes on your wrist. So here's the action images. I know we've some extra time today, so I'm gonna go over this a wee bit more. Show the product in its environment. So if you're a supplement or a skincare, put it into, let's say I have to take it when I'm in the shower. You want to show it the shower. You want to show, sorry, I say shower. So, but you want to show it in the shower, and you want to show them applying it, or you want to see them consuming the product. Okay, so always think, where should they be wearing it, and then show that, or where should they be applying it? Show that hero. So share real-time touches with one-touch bracelets, or feel your loved one's heartbeat at any time. Okay, so it's just key information where they can see it. Same goes for this. So this is a couple of different things. So this was the product images before, and we loads more. I'm just going to show these because these were the key concerns of the customer. So we figured out, okay, they really, really strong concerns of, well, how long does this even last? Because it is a device. Is it water resistant? Like, can I wear it to shower? And then we got a little brand work. I'm not sure if anyone's seen this brand recently, but we work with them a wee bit on product pages, landing pages, different things like this. And this is something so simple as well, which I see 2 trends in product images. And it's, they either talk about USPs, so unique selling points only, or they talk about social proof only. You've got to mix it up. You've got treat product images like they are website sections. That's where we look at. So if you're breaking down like 4 reasons why, and why should you buy this and all these things, implement that as a product image. Just flip it on its head. So talk about the USPs. If you have this if this was a supplement, talk about the outcomes. So try and tell them, after 12 weeks you'll feel this, and that can increase LTV as well. So customer lifetime value can increase because you talk about these things. And then social proof. The key one that I actually think brands forget the most is social proof. So show before and after, show the best review that hits the pain point. So the reason we chose this was because people's concerns again was, oh, do I get jitters after? Do I feel like, people have problems with coffee? So that's what it is there. And then we have, so languages. Back to my point. Understand your customer. Why are they buying? Really get insights from there. Funnel that back into creators. Funnel that back into your website experience. And funnel it into landing pages. So if you're a brand and you don't sell clothing, clothing can still work. You might just need to send it up to a bundle builder or a collection page, and you can still style that as a landing page, really. But more so on okay, if we break some of these down, 5 reasons why moms win Christmas with this bougie build and win their hearts of the children. So they're buying for their children, not themselves, okay? And then we've got all the other things, okay? So I think we're getting tight time here, so I'm going to fly through this. Again, you can all kind of get the concepts here. Point out why or who the target demographic is, and then why they're buying it, for what reason. That's a really good way to kind of look at that in the pages. And then you can all see that they're all designed really well. Social proof, call to actions, everything like that, okay? Now, what people actually see. So this is cplant.com. I have absolutely no affiliate to them, but they are unreal. Absolutely amazing. If you actually went and looked at this, scroll depth, 17%, okay? Bottom left, average duration on your site, 31 seconds. What pages do they enter from? 3 of the key metrics that everyone in this room should know about their own brand. Because why are you then asking the agency or whoever it is to focus on the About Us page when nobody actually sees it? So think about it logically. Focus where they see, okay? And then where they click, okay? So product images, I was running around. Look where they're clicking. Product images, product images, product images, product images. So you're not focusing on them. For what reason? Everyone sees that. It can literally be the difference between you selling and not. I would say if you have only 1 or 2 sections and you just focused on this, it would convert, okay? And then some data. So 70% of visitors click product images, average 25% scroll depth. 68% of users never scroll past 2 screen recordings or 2 screen heights. 45% of visitors make decisions within the first 20 or 30 seconds. Navigation, everyone go to their heat map is the most clicked if you have a couple of products. FAQs. So this is the really interesting one. FAQs are not a section and they get the most clicks on a certain question. So this is actually a bit of a hack. Go to your FAQs on your heat map, see what's the most clicked question, and then actually make that the top priority. And then that also gets you an understanding of, oh, well, they're obviously looking for this information because it's at the bottom. So you can kind of go to that. And every scroll is a risk of bounce. So something that we actually look at is bounce rate of each page. And your hero section, if you think about it, is where they end. So it obviously has an effect on that. And if I could get everyone to take 3 things from today, it would be, don't guess. So stop guessing. Let your customers and data tell you what to do. Prioritize where the attention goes. Traffic without a strategy of CRO is just burning budget. And then this is what you would look like if you remember me showing you him. If you listen to your customer, you're going to be on the yacht posting with the awareness like I do. But thank you very much for listening today.
Yeah, well, Paddy.
One of the things I took out of that I thought was super important and I wanted to get everybody in front of, how many people right now are using AI as part of their everyday workflow? Right? So see how fast that happened for everybody. Who has used it for CRO, for copywriting, things like that? Right? So amazing that we had so many people already taking it. For the ones who aren't, right? You guys admit, we've got to lean in. It's going to leverage up. That's something that you have to do. Also, I think that it's important. One of those things that I got out of the talk was the importance of copywriting and where you're getting stuff. That's obviously going to be really important in 2 talks with Lagos. Talks about copywriting, how they're doing it at Original Grain, how they go deeper into that. Super great from inside of that. We're going to now start to rotate in to Jacques Spitzer. If you guys don't know, he's the founder of Raindrop Agency. If you don't know Raindrop Agency, Dr. Squatch, Simple Modern, you think of Grunz and what they were able to do with 20 months ago, $500 million valuation. It's built on the back of the creative and everything else that's spouting out of Raindrop Agency and what Job puts together. So he's talking today about the three blind spots you happen to create it, how to maximize that creative and what you can do. So for Paddy and you still have their mic on. Does anybody have any questions that they want to get specifically answered for themselves? Because I met somebody, I'm looking for where he's, or if he's gone now. But I saw you were talking about skincare, you were talking about a health there. I know somebody who was talking about scalp. They were doing something where they had a scalp company they were doing restorative things there. What's something that somebody in that healthcare industry, like, what's the number one CRO change that gets them inversion?
I would actually say this goes for all brands. Like I mentioned the product page there. If you know like the 3 to 4 reasons that they are shopping, but also one thing I think brands forget to talk about is like outcomes. So if you're saying to them, give them a duration. So this is something we're kind of seeing that we're testing for a lot of brands is if you want them to subscribe, if you're trying to get them to subscribe to something, tell them like, oh, in 4 weeks, you'll see this. In 8 weeks, you'll see this result. And then in 3 to 6 months, you'll see this, because it taps into their psychology and they'll actually want to subscribe and trust the process a bit more because they need to tape the product for 3 to 6 months. So I know churn is a massive issue for brands. So if you're looking to start testing, also look at that sort of retention as well. That would be one thing.
I got one more question for you all. Everybody who wants to start grabbing a seat, now's your time to move to a seat before we get to the next talk. So if you're going to stand the rest of the time, you're standing the rest of the time. If you want to make shot to a seat, now's your go. How long should somebody wait before making another CRO change, right? So people made changes, everybody does everything, and then 24 hours later, they're like, it's not better than what I just had, so I'm out. What's the common for you that people should lean into a change, an adaptation to the website before they go back to what they were doing, or what's enough traffic to get to the other side to understand that was good change?
Yeah, right. Okay, so yeah, we roughly do this. It's different for every brand, so take this with a pinch of salt. We'll set on the test, and we only set up maybe maximum 6 to 7 tests a month. If you're doing 10, 15, 20, you got to remember, if I come in from the landing page, and then I put in the product page on the collection page or whatever, and you've tests everywhere, they're going to get a lot of like does one test actually make the difference or not? So we like to look at it with a minimum amount of tests minimum 2 weeks. I mean, we're an agency, so someone's paying us to test. We can't just go after a week, oh yeah, that's a winner, because you need to stack the wins in our favor to look good. And then we also do it where you don't want to stop things after one day. If you look at it within the first 4 days, just don't look at it unless it's destroying something that's broken. Do not look at it after 4 days. Around day 7 to 10, we tend to actually need a decision. Do we continue to test or should we stop? Because that's the area where you've got a good bit of data. But we do it minimum 2 weeks, 2 working cycles. So minimum 2 weeks is usually what I would recommend for everyone to be doing it.
Perfect. Appreciate it. One more clap for Paddy.